Shalom and welcome to the tribe. This is Yah Priest, and today's show is on the darkness that's covering the earth, the continued fight of the dark world to rule the physical world, and to bring it into darkness by turning everything upside down, meaning the natural order of things. And in doing this, reversing the polarity of the entire planet to be magnetic and to be sucked down into satanic consciousness. But basically, sucked down into a lower level, which is closer to hell, instead of having Christ's energy protrude through. Now, I'm going to start this off, and I hope women who are followers of the Most High Yah understand what I'm saying here. If we go back to the Garden of Eden, Satan told Eve that if she basically did what he said, that she would be God. Not knowing that the word beguile means to trick, which meant that he had a completely different agenda in mind, and that was the destruction of humanity, of God's house, which is male and female, by empowering Eve to attack the Son of God, or men, to attack the male principle, and in turn have the male principle either defend itself or change its frequency to being same sex, thus stopping the true love connection and perversing the male, so the male can no longer receive the pieces of God's soul. When a child, let me rephrase this, when a child is born and he is of a high vibrational in his proper order and stature, the Most High Yah sends the souls of children through the male, that is the seed, the royal seed, that can take down the devil. And when that seed is planted into a woman's womb, the woman builds a body for it to be able to interface on earth. When a male is perverse, those light seeds, or those sparks, or our souls, are dimmed. Now I'm going to pause that right there, and I'm going to mention something that spawned this conversation over, and that was a few years ago. I had a conversation with the older woman who just happened to be same sex, and she made a statement to me that one day we're not going to need men to have children. Which meant, well, first, she was delusional. She thought that was a powerful thing to say, especially since I had no attraction to her and it was a relative. But I heard that same phrase uttered by multiple different women. Whether it was in a YouTube video or a friend of a friend told me that this is the promise, a part two. All right. And I said to myself, well, why would women, natural born godly women, would want that? And when I prayed on it, the Most High Yah told me, those aren't women. They belong to the dark side. Possessed. And then when I asked Father, I said, God, what kind of men are behind this? Those are the men that are made in the image. Actually, those are the men and women made in the image and likeness of Lucifer and Lilith. And right now, they have rooted themselves in the world. This is why I said, be not of this world. They have rooted themselves in the current world culture, which has been extreme feminist based and passive male based, which is the flipping of the spiritual polarity on earth. He continued to download to me. Yet these folks worship Lucifer. These folks worship Lilith. They worship Delilah. They worship Kalima. They worship, the Kalima, the destroyer of men. They worship Delilah and Jezebel. All entities that present themselves as feminine, but they're evil. And their polarity is to take, drain. So these are vampiric type spirits that want to keep souls entrapped here on earth to feed the satanic kingdom. That can only happen by changing the spiritual polarity, stopping God's seeds from being born through the pure Christian or Judeo-Christian or any religion that knows the Most High Yah. To have those souls of light from being stopped from being born and have those children that are born in the future born from artificial sperm, which if you look into science, they actually have artificial sperm. Artificial sperm means soulless sperm. They also have created machines to carry babies to term. And I said, Father, the people are wiser than that. They're wiser than that. And Father said, yes, these folks are using an extreme amount of black magic. They're using mind manipulation through TV, movies, etc. These are things that I explained before. They're poisoning the foods and things to help change the polarity of the human species. And they're using electronics to block the connection, like 5G, 6G, 7G, which is they're already bringing out 6G, especially bringing out 7G. Those frequencies are low dense frequencies that help block and distort prayers from reaching the Most High Yah, creating almost a spiritual prison. Of course, with chips and things like that they may be putting into people, a physical one on top of that. And this should scare people to realize that Lucifer, who beguiled Eve in the garden, who's beguiling Eve now, is still working through her to destroy humanity, because the goal is that your creation is not worthy of being below the angels with their future to be God. So over the last few years, the plan has been to replace God's 144,000 and to influence, to replace God's 144,000 who are the leaders and teachers with false teachers. So that they're able to still influence the masses. Now, when it comes to the house of God, he has placed his children, which are primarily male, Lucifer, inside the house of Judah, inside the Christian churches. So it kind of works like the male principle that is working with Satan is in God's house, trying to maintain control of God's house, so the real teachers can't teach. And some of those are God's children but being misled. Same thing with the women who are teaching spirituality now. Some of them are God's children. Not a lot. But are being misled by those who worship evil. As I stated before. Now, the argument to get women and to follow this, or females to follow this, is men shouldn't be head of the house. If men are the being that God puts the God seed in, he is responsible for it. That is part of being a man's. That's part of the contract of being a male. When a male is born down here, that you will help bring God's children of beautiful souls, children of light, down on earth. Of course, a lot of men have lost their way because of the way the world has been changed, and in turn, because a lot of men have lost their way, they have helped the satanic agenda by angering the feminine population, which a lot of it isn't men's fault. I mean, a lot of women do complain about being oppressed. That oppression is a systematic thing. It's not a masculine thing, a normal masculine thing. It's a systematic thing. And this system is a satanic system. It's not God's system. And it has nothing to do with balance. It has to do with completely reversing polarity, as stated before. And sadly, most of them are working for the people that set the system up, and coming against those who God has chose, which are both male and female. That's why I said some of those teachers that are under the influence by those teachers who aren't part of God's children. are doing this, and the same thing with the females, both sides. And this is why God said, separate the wheat from the tare. And the tare has been working tremendously through, again, spiritual means, some of it electronical means, to find out who God's chosen are and to replace them, and to have them copied by those who are really anti-Christ. And again, because the spiritual community, and maybe you didn't hear a video, I did a video on this about the spiritual community, was intentionally ostracized by the Catholic Church to cause those who are spiritually gifted by the Most High God to be forced in order to explore and to strengthen their abilities into darker circles which do not have their ultimate highest and best good. But you can only attract bees with honey if they knew the truth of what was deep under it. Most folks who are spiritual would seek the kingdom first, so all will be given on to them. But we live in a culture that we want things quickly. Now, the reason why spirits or low vibrational spirits are attracted to the feminine energy is because of their menstrual cycle and the releasing of blood. And in most Judeo-Christian spirituality, beyond what you read in the Bible, it's even mentioned that when your wife or female partner is menstruating, that you're not even supposed to sleep in the same bed with her, because during that time frame she's unclean. Now, she personally isn't unclean. The spirits that come around her that can influence a weaker woman, especially a woman that doesn't have a praying man to cover her. Of course, especially if it's an impure man, a perverse male, are easily beguiled or influenced by darker spirits in the darker realm of spirituality. Uses this to control and manipulate, which is part of, again, Satan's plan, who doesn't like either male or female. He thinks that we are weak and we don't deserve the spiritual crowns that we're given, both male and female. So let's do a brief recap and let's go back to the garden and how the demonic turned man against woman and had made that promise to make them higher than God. Meanwhile, the whole plan again was to ensure that blessed seeds, those born from a male in alignment with the Most High Yah, and a female in alignment with the Most High Yah, both in their higher aspects, and both under the Most High, and the production of God's seed, of God children. so that he could prove, so he could stop the production of God children and prove that we, as children of the Most High, are not worthy to be over him. There's a few things that the demonic is jealous of, and that's our ability to create, that we have a true soul, which has made him obsolete. And destroying humanity are proven to the Most High that we are lesser than him or them. Has always been the plan. To keep humanity from seeing their true divinity by giving birth to a true divine race. And it's an ingenious plan. You remember back in the early 2000s, not early 2000s, I think around 2020, 2012, you started seeing a slew, actually before that, you saw a slew of demasculization movies and TV shows on an agenda to demasculate men through movies, TV shows, to influence the minds that men are stupid creatures. This was to appease the satanic king, who ultimately is jealous of him and hates God for making these, again, for making us, the children of light, to be over top of him, to have the power to bash the head of the snake. That power is in every soul, whether male or female. And when a Christ seed is born, like a perfect seed, like Yeshua was a perfect seed. This is why they push this agenda against Yeshua's existence. Everything was a farce, and things of that nature. They've even made dark occult stories and things about Yeshua, to pretend his existence wasn't real. Because the devil can't create anything. That's another thing about Satan, Lucifer, and his fallen ones. And we'll talk about the snake in the garden, the humanoid snake in the garden, in another video. This is the flaw. It's also the same flaw when it comes to AI. AI can't really create. It can only take the information that we give it and assimilate it in a way that they think, or that algorithms tell it that this will be good for the public. But to create from thin air, no. But if you notice, the current administration, actually, before I get to that part, I was talking to a computer specialist, right? Like one of those youths that just naturally good. I guess a prodigy. They're naturally good with computers. And he told me that, and I was like, what? When I heard this, I was like, well, are you serious? He told me that when they were opening up CERN, that spirits were coming through. Now I knew about that part, but he was saying that some of those supercomputers have the spiritual energy that's been coming through the portals that CERN's opening, controlling it. And that's why increasingly it's becoming more and more what you would call alive. Now, I don't know how much that is true, but it makes AI and the android all things that make the human obsolete. Stay focused on God because we don't know what hand the devil has on who or what at this time. And it's best to be of high vibration so you can get true discernment. Now, me as one that got pulled into this 15 years ago by the Satanic Church, and I've watched as I've been slowed down from speaking because one of the women that spoke to me in one of my classes, I think, or actually out in public, she says to me, "The world will never hear you," and they're currently working tirelessly for over 15 years using females and a bunch of lies because if you want to attack a male leader, you use a female. If you want to attack a female leader, you use males or you use other females. But specifically, if you want to attack a male leader, you use females. To stop me because I am one of these 144,000 God seeds. Who answered the call? And because I've answered the call, I know more than most through experience and wisdom given to me by the Most High Yah, and forced interactions by the Satanic Church, forced meaning familiar spirits, things of that nature, to understand Satan's plan. While Satan has been, or the dark Satanic Church has been studying me, copying me, and sending it out through their people on YouTube, Facebook, on many different levels. And it's all for spiritual power that they already have. See, a lot of these folks in their seeking of spiritual awakening, they end up bowing to dark entities and end up being controlled by dark entities. So in most cases, it's not really the person. In some cases, it is the person because they're the seed of Satan, or the seed of the dark ones. This is why it was common, and I hope it's stopping because I've heard a lot about child molestation. But to help corrupt those seeds, a lot of them were molested as children to corrupt that light and to change its polarity so that when it thinks it's receiving, when they think they're receiving messages from the Most High Yah, their polarity has already been changed to receive messages from the Dark One. This is why it's always been a big thing for me to fight against child predators and things of that nature, which every male should do, to be honest with you. Now, although it's primarily a male thing, there are women that do this as well for satanic practices. So as we go into the future, you will see not a balancing of power, because God created man and female to be balanced, to be equal opposites, and to work together. The dark ones know this and have been working to tear it apart, and put the female over the head and the male at the bottom, which reverses the polarity, basically. And I'm going back over this before I close this out. And they're going to pretend like we've already seen to be exactly the things that I'm explaining to you that God's people are. But it's not going to be that way. And this is part of the prophecy where they mislead the saints, the righteous, and ultimately mislead 2/3 of the world, as they've already taken over God's prophecy at this time. To continue the perpetuation of this dark, oppressive system that doesn't allow God's seeds or God's chosen to grow and shine. We'll talk about all this, get more in depth into that in the next video. I want you guys to go and listen to the laws and precepts that I've been putting up. Okay? And start getting yourself in alignment with the Most High Yah. Alright? All I have is time, because the beast system has already put the kibosh on me, as far as me getting money, as far as me being successful, as far as you hearing me on a wide scale. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. This is Priest. Shalom.